This is Mrs. Johnson. I'm going to read to you this book, Meet the Artist, Paul Cézanne, by Melody S. Miss. Meet the Artist, Paul Cézanne. Meet Cézanne. Paul Cézanne was a French artist. He is famous for his landscapes and still life paintings. Still lifes are paintings of things that do not move, such as apples. Cézanne is thought of as a post-impressionist artist because he added new ideas to the impressionist style of painting. Impressionism is a way of painting that began in the 1860s. The Impressionists painted outdoors so they could study the way sunlight changed colors in nature. They were known for using bright colors to paint everyday scenes. This was different from other artists who had often painted historical or biblical scenes. Cézanne made this self-portrait in the 1870s. A self-portrait is a painting that a person makes of himself or herself. Artists do self-portraits to practice their painting skills or to try out new ways of painting. Provençal landscape shows the land near Aix, where Cézanne grew up. Cézanne painted many pictures of this part of France during his life. Young Cézanne. Paul Cézanne was born on January 19, 1839, in a southern French town called Aix-en-Provence. The land around Aix is filled with mountains and forests. Cézanne loved the Aix countryside and painted many pictures of it during his life. At age 13, Cézanne went to high school in Aix. There he met Émile Zola, who would later become a famous writer. The two boys were good friends for most of their lives. When Cézanne was 18 years old, he started taking drawing lessons at an art school in Aix. Art or law? Cézanne's father, Louis Auguste, was not interested in art. He did not want his son to study art. He wanted Cézanne to be a lawyer. In 1859, he sent Cézanne to law school. Cézanne was a good student, but he did not want to be a lawyer. He wanted to be an artist instead. In 1861, Cézanne quit law school and told his father that he wanted to go to Paris to study art. Louis Auguste was angry, but in the end he agreed to let Cézanne go. He even gave Cézanne money to live on while he was learning how to paint. The Dream of the Poet, or The Kiss of the Muse, from 1860, is one of Cézanne's earliest paintings. The Muse, seen on the right, is an imaginary being who gives ideas to artists. Moving to Paris. In April 1860, Cézanne moved to Paris. His friend Émile Zola was already living there. Cézanne took a test to enter Paris's School of Fine Arts, but he failed it. He then began his art education by painting with other artists at a studio. One of the artists at the studio was Camille Pissarro, who painted in the new Impressionist style. Pissarro became an important person in Cézanne's life. He encouraged Cézanne to stop painting dark scenes and to start painting colorful scenes from nature using lighter colors. Top. Girl at the Piano, Overture to Tannhäuser, from 1868, is one of the last of Cézanne's early dark paintings. Right. Cézanne ended his friendship with Zola in the 1880s. He did this because Zola had based a character in one of his books on Cézanne, and Cézanne did not like how that character appeared. The Impressionists. Cézanne met many Impressionist artists through Pissarro. Some of the Impressionists thought Cézanne was a strange person because he did not like people to touch him. Others thought he was mean because he often got angry easily. Cézanne and the Impressionists began to send their paintings to the Paris Salon, but they were rejected. The Salon was the most important art show in Paris. In 1863, Paris held a show for artists whose works had been rejected by the Salon. This gave Cézanne and the Impressionists a chance to show their paintings to the public. Portrait of Madame Cazanne in red dress shows Cézanne's longtime girlfriend, Marie Hortense Ficquet. Although she and Cézanne did not marry for many years, she was known as Madame or Mrs. Cazanne. She is in many of Cézanne's paintings. Cazanne and Passaro. In 1870, Cezanne moved to southern France. He returned to Paris a year later and started working on landscapes. Between 1872 and 1874, Cezanne stayed with Passaro, who had moved to a town outside of Paris. Passaro and Cezanne painted outdoors together so they could study nature up close. Cezanne enjoyed painting with Passaro because Passaro taught him how to study the way in which sunlight affected the colors in nature. Cezanne showed his paintings at the 1874 and 1877 Impressionist exhibitions in Paris. Many people laughed at his work because they did not understand them and thought they were terrible. Cezanne painted the house of Dr. Gachet at Alvars in 1873. He painted this house many times and from different sides. Painting the same subject at different times was the way Impressionists studied how light affects how things look. Dr. Gachet was friends with many of the Impressionists. This page, Still Life with Drapery, is one of the Cezanne's many still lifes. These paintings feature objects from around the house. Pages 18 and 19, Jazz de Buffon from 1887 is one of many views Cezanne painted of his beloved family home in Alps. Retiring to Alps, Aix. During the 1880s, Cezanne returned to his hometown of Aix. He liked to paint the country landscapes that he found near his home. His favorite scene was a nearby mountain called Mont Saint-Victor, which he painted more than 60 times. While he was in Aix, Cezanne began to create his own style of painting. He started using larger sections of bold colors and different brushstrokes. In 1886, Cezanne married his longtime girlfriend, Marie Hortense Frequent. They had a child named Paul, who had been born in 1872. Cezanne's father died in 1886. He left the family house, Jazz de Buffon, to Cezanne. A new style. During the 1890s, Cezanne became interested in showing others how many things in nature had certain geometric shapes. For example, to Cezanne, apples looked like balls and trees were shaped like upside-down ice cream cones. He began to paint landscapes and objects found in his studio using geometric shapes as guides. Young artists like Cezanne's new ideas and often went to Aix to watch him paint. In 1895, the owner of an art store held an exhibition to show Cezanne's geometric works. People were beginning to realize that Cezanne was a great artist. Cezanne used both geometric shapes and bold colors to paint The Card Players from 1892. You can see the shapes such as circles and rectangles have been shaded, colored, or softened to make the images in this painting. The father of modern art. During the early 1900s, Cezanne was in bad health, but he worked every day. In October 1906, it started raining while Cezanne was walking to work. He caught a terrible cold and died on October 22. By the time he died, Cezanne had become a respected artist. He had spent his life trying out new ways to paint everyday scenes and objects. His last works with geometric shapes encouraged other artists to create a new style of painting, which would later be called modern art. Glossary. Affected, changed. Create, to produce or make something. Encouraged, to have given hope, cheer, or certainty to someone. Exhibitions, shows or displays of objects or pictures that are set out for people to see. Favorite, most liked. Geometric, having to do with straight lines, circles, and other shapes. Landscapes, paintings of large sections of land or scenes in nature. Lawyer, a person who speaks for other people in court. Modern, using the most up-to-date ideas or ways of doing things. Modern art describes the new ways of making art that were becoming popular in the early 20th century. Rejected, refuse to accept or do something. Sections, parts. Studio, a room or building where an artist works. Style, the way in which something is done.